Hi everybody, and welcome to another show of Something Real. This is going to be a tough one.
This is gonna be a tough one.
This is going to be a tough one because I kind of get I'm feeling like I have to get a little bit personal on this one, especially after the last year going through the things that I went through, with having two really good friends kill themselves. Suicide doesn't have a face.
It doesn't. And one of those good friends of yours was very close of mine. So that's kind of you and I.
That's how we
almost bonded. We reconnected, and that was like the bridge. It was like our common ground when we reconnected. And I shouldn't even say reconnected like we weren't connected, but
yeah,
we knew each other because of a mutual friend. We didn't ever really hang out, but I reached out to you. You showed up to sit on my couch, and it was like this friend that's no longer with us kind of was sitting there like, you two need to get together and here's what's going to happen. It's going to be great.
The fact of the matter is, that's the thing. You had the baby on your today.
I did. I was sitting on my couch breastfeeding.
We were just having this conversation, and then this is how this whole show was born.
Yep.
And then Rowena comes into the mix, and it just seemed like, okay, this is like, oh my God. You know when they say things happen to you and just this unexplainable phenomenon, but you just have to just ride it out.
Yeah.
I think that's what's most exciting about life. And see, I learned to realize that, especially dealing with my own issues with suicide over the years. You know, even just having, I always call myself a suicide survivor. I actually picked this up after our wedding.
Oh, stand up so we can. There you go. Suicidal tendencies, awesome. With the number 13.
With the number, with my number, no less. With my number, and that's not a bad number. That's actually a really good number. I feel like seeing a group. I went to incarceration at the Mansfield prison. An awesome punk rock show. Literally 2 days after we got married.
That's right.
2 days after we get married, and we're just pumping fists at this punk rock show. And suicidal tendencies. I thought I went back. I literally thought I went back into my teenage girl years of this band. I felt 15 again.
That's
Isaac
awesome.
brought me back. You know what? That's when a lot of those suicidal tendencies started.
Absolutely.
15 for me. There was all this, just like this darkness. There was always like, I don't know if it was like, I don't know. Sometimes I kind of feel like an empath. Maybe there was something that was picking up from the outside energies that I wasn't understanding that I felt that was mine, because I never really felt unhappy. I always felt like there was something kind of drawing me there. I don't like seeing people sad. I don't like being sad. It just happens. I have to I gotta find my way out of the darkness again. I think that's why I love painting so much, because painting has helped bring me out of the darkness, and I just paint the light, even if it is a darker journey. Even with my careers, just the careers that I've chosen. I wanted to be able to be around people that I saw as light, or at least to be able to share my own light with them.
Yeah.
I like that.
Totally.
And that was always very important. But for me, having those two losses back to back like that, I'll never get over that. It leaves like a hole in your heart.
Oh, absolutely.
It does. And even just me, then you always feel like there's always like, I just can't. There's so much beauty in this world, and I want to just see it through,
Right.
That's why I can't go out like that. I can't. For me, I have my sons. I always believe that there's a future beyond that pain. Even the way my paintings come to light is like that. I see the light, and I'll never give up on it. I think I visually always have to see it, because that reminds me of something spiritually I still need to kind of delve into.
Yeah. And I think, there's people that have a hard time seeing that light. They have a hard time seeing beyond that. And I know we've discussed that it's not our job to judge when someone else does make that decision to do that too, because so many times people will look at somebody that has committed suicide and say, how could they do that to their family and how could that happen? It's like they didn't see something and they needed help, and that was their way of finding help. And we can't judge when it does happen, but we can pick up where we're at and how that affects us and how do we move on from that point and allow them to be where they've chosen to be at that point. I think is probably the hardest part to probably connect with.
Well, yeah, and it's very hard to process, even in a situation like, the friend we lost last year was David, and many of you that watch us know who he is, and he was a situation where we watched it happen. Like, I feel like we were watching a movie for a couple years, and I've known David for 6-7 years. Like, he was a very big part of my past, and then he started spiraling, and I talked to you about this after he died. I had to take a step back from him because when they get in that mode, and he chose other things, addictions that I think ultimately led to the decision he made, and the people he surrounded himself around at the end, I think also helped lead to decisions, and he was in such a bad place. But you get to a point where if you have someone in your life that's going through something like that, and they're trying to alienate everyone. David was trying to push everyone away, and he was attacking anyone that tried to help him and anyone that expressed that kind of stuff.
You want to know why? And that's what happened the same way with Eric. It was like when they have their minds made up. I think Eric taught me that when he told me he was going to do this a year prior, it's a shame when you're in your car outside of your art studio and you're listening to this conversation and then you're saying, damn, I believe him.
Right.
When you just know. And you know what? It wasn't like I could do whatever I could say and try to coax him out of this. But when someone made a decision, you know what that sounds like, Rowena? You know what that sounds like, Brandy. You might not want to, but you know what? You believe somebody when they have a strong conviction.
Right.
When they have something detailed planned. I've never had anything detailed planned. A lot of my stuff was like more emotionally based. It was like these people had like it in their head. This is how they were going to go out in life.
Both
They
of them.
didn't even fight it.
Right.
They didn't even fight it.
Yeah.
They just knew this was going to happen. I felt like it was like Biggie Smalls and Notorious B.I.G. all over again, who were declaring at that time that they wouldn't live past a certain age.
Right.
Tupac said he wouldn't live past 25. Notorious B.I.G. same thing. He was already thinking people were going to come after him and they were going to kill him. Like when you have this premonition, when you know, and that was it. And that's what I was in the car listening to this shit. I didn't even know if this is me. And then I have friends who got into that emotional mindset that I actually helped out of that darkness, because I heard there was almost like an emotional cry to reason.
Right.
To reason. Because I'm strong enough to reason myself out of it. I got enough love around me now in my life, and I've always had it. And I held on to it. I held on to the love. I held on to that peace that made me stay.
That glimmer of hope.
That glimmer of hope that made me stay. And and I've also had people who come to me who saw me as hope.
Right.
Oh yes.
And so I followed it. I followed that. And you know what? I'm proud of that. It wasn't anything like, I felt like that was all because I was given that opportunity. I was given that opportunity.
Right.
Before I didn't have that opportunity. I saw it for what it was. And it's a shame when you have to, and you're just like, man.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I've had to remove myself from those situations.
Right.
Well, and you had brought up, when you were younger and in, those teenage years, the early teenage years, when you start going through all kinds of struggles and relationships with friends and school and your parents.
Bullying.
And as women, you know, young girls, you know, you've got all that emotional stuff going on inside and what you do with it. And I don't think either one of you know this, but you know, hearing you say what you said, when I was in middle school, I became a cutter. Ooh, and wow. I used to cut myself. And that was something that I hid from people. And I didn't do it with knives or something that you would think would be easy to cut with. I would actually take my mom's sewing needles. And I would take her sewing needles and I would scrape my skin until it got down to where it would bleed. And that pain, I didn't know why I had that tendency to do that until I became in my 20s and started watching, I think it was Oprah had a show on cutting. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was a thing? I had no clue that, you know, there were other people out there that had done the same thing. And then when Facebook came out and it became more aware, and you get teenagers, like when my girls were growing up and, you know, concerns with maybe that happening with one of them, you've got their friends that are possibly doing it. Right. And there's a movie that's out there that's called To Write Love on Her Arms. And that was a huge change in watching that movie and understanding why I actually did what I did was because I had this internal pain that I didn't know what to do with. And I don't, like you, I didn't know where it came from, but it's like that internal pain of what do I do with? So I needed to feel the physical pain to understand what that pain felt like to eventually get through it. And, you know, as I got older, obviously, I stopped doing that. But it was something that I did when I was younger and hid.
So let's get back to this. What were the things that you did to help you get through that?
Oh, biggest thing was probably being more involved with my church and my youth group. Because I had other teenagers that cared about me. They didn't know what I was doing, but I knew that they cared about me.
Right.
And I knew that I had God in my life. I had that faith and I had belief, and having a faith and having a belief behind anything has always pulled me through.
See, that's where I'm at. See, that's where my foundation lies. Mm-hmm. Because there's always that faith and belief that had me so here that I couldn't go there. Mm-hmm. I couldn't go there. Yeah. And that's what keeps me around, because that's the thing that drives me. Because you know what? It's the thing that I know that
you've got a greater purpose.
Yeah, I have a greater purpose. Yeah. And I want to talk about that down the road.
Oh,
that's another
There's
subject.
Another subject that'll be
because I think that can be a little bit of a loose subject. And we need to get
the
purpose. Purpose, about how we're, you know, throwing that word around and what that means to many people.
Right.
Yes, I feel purposeful. I think we all want to feel purposeful.
Absolutely.
I think that's what kept me around. I know that feeling purposeful. I was purposeful in my kid's life. I was purposeful in my own life.
Right.
I had to be. I had to feel enough. Mm-hmm. I am enough.
Right.
Affirmations became my thing every day. If my mind's starting to sway here, I need to take my mind and my heart somewhere else. Meditation's key. Getting quiet is key. Not jumping out of bed and the first thing I'm doing is this.
Yes.
Turning this noise on. No, I'm turning the noise off. I need to go work out. I need to meditate. I need to thank God for my day.
Right.
I need to acknowledge I woke up. I need to be okay with that. It was all those things. Doing those things was key for me to getting it back out of that mindset. A lot of people ignore doing those things because they lost hope, they lost faith. Yeah. Or some just become a martyr, that they feel like they're doing this for other people.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That they think that they would be better off without them there. Mm-hmm. There's many different reasons. I noticed you had a Kate Spade purse. Look at my. We all have Kate Spade. Oh my God, that's the first time.
Love.
And we're using my phone, so.
Wow. And you have that awesome bag over there.
It's my diaper bag. I have a Kate Spade diaper bag.
Can you bring that over here? Because we're going to celebrate Kate today.
It's time for a new one. It's a little beat up.
Oh no, now this is a style. My diaper bag did not even look like that.
So there's a story behind this, actually. So going back to our last episode about
like
finances.
Kate's blessing our show
I
right
know,
now.
right?
Oh my God.
So I had Anya, and I had like a cheap Walmart or Target diaper bag with my other kids. And I had Anya, and I told Mike when I was pregnant, I want a Kate Spade diaper bag. And they're like, anywhere from $300 to $500. They're expensive. And so I set a goal, and that is another topic we'll do one day, is goal setting and talking about that. But I set a goal, and I do direct sales. And so I said, when my commission check hits X amount to cover my new diaper bag, I'm gonna buy myself a diaper bag. And the next month, I added that in. Yeah, I earned my diaper bag. It was a goal for me to reach as a mom and not feel guilty about spending money or anything. And I bought myself my Kate Spade diaper bag.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yes, I love it.
It's time for a new one, so I gotta set a new
How tender
goal.
is that?
Definitely. Yeah.
I feel like.
And what a beautiful person she was.
Oh, yeah.
You think about even Kate Spade, Anthony Bourdain.
Okay, but
I
don't remember what the two of them
Robin Williams last year.
were they on
or year before.
antidepressants? Because that's a whole nother topic. Is that and I learned a lot of that with.
I don't know. I need to do more. I know
So-
he suffered from depression for many years.
So he
She's
was
going through a lot of that up and
probably
down.
on something, but
Yeah.
so one thing that I learned in my whole teaching myself about CBD, and that's something we're gonna talk about in a future show too, but that a lot of people are prescribed antidepressants, and it actually increases their suicidal tendencies. And I have friends that actually they launched a CBD company, and they launched it because the husband's best friend was prescribed antidepressants, and something like within 2 weeks later, he killed himself. And so they started looking into it, and there's actually studies of like when, I think they did it with vets or something, but when they introduced CBD and took people off these antidepressants, suicide rates went down. It was something actually in the state, when the state legalizes like CBD and medicinal marijuana and all that, the suicide rates in that state go down.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Brandy?
and so that's a big thing that I'm passionate about with health and medicines and
Brandy, I literally at one point was prescribed Wellbutrin, and that lasted all of 1 month years ago. I have not been on antidepressants. I've been mindfully,
But you're a very strong, minded person.
I think we all can be.
We all can be, but you focus. You just talked about how you wake up in the morning and you meditate and you focus on yourself, and so you're doing what we wish everybody could do.
Right. Well,
and so that's like you're an example of you've been to the dark side and you've seen that, but you don't rely on medicines or this or that to pull yourself out. You focus on you. And
I do things through diet.
Huge.
So
there's actually foods that increase anxiety and depression, and there's foods that help lessen.
Do you have some foods at the top of your head?
Oh no, I'd have to look.
Okay,
I
we're gonna get back. We're gonna get back to that.
We're gonna do a couple different food segments. We're gonna do a label reading, grocery shopping session, a cooking session.
Yeah.
So I actually will post the some of the foods and some resources in the link of this video when
you should put them on Healthy Hustlers.
I do. If you actually go to if you go to my food group, Healthy Hustlers, there's a search bar. If you search like anxiety, depression, whatever, it'll pull up any posts that had anything with those words.
Yeah.
Because that's how I know a decent amount about the foods, and I can't name one, but I've shared them with people who have said, hey, I want a natural way to help with my anxiety. I want a natural way to help with my depression.
But there are, even like, okay.
Essential oils.
Essential oils. Also, women, we go through like 5 phases of metamorphosis in our development, okay? Shit needs to get adjusted.
Yeah.
Right.
What we were doing at 16, we can't do it at 35 or 45, honey. You got to adjust.
Yeah.
Certain things need to be, like, I started looking up my age. I started looking up vitamins that I should be taking. You know what I mean? Things that I should be doing. Like, it's all about my health right now.
Oh, absolutely. And
because
it changes to the point of, like, with vitamins and supplements and stuff by age, you should go in, like, if everyone should be getting yearly blood panels done, but you should go in and have, like, your levels checked for everything, because a good doctor that does the right lab work can tell you, like, you need vitamin D, but you don't need this. You need vitamin B, but you don't need this.
Okay.
So you're not just wasting your money on vitamins
And
that aren't doing anything. And the quality of the vitamins that you buy
That's true.
are important too.
So you only took that for a month, right?
Only,
Okay.
yeah, and I
So
thought...
I actually was on antidepressants for 3 years. I started out with Celexa, and then I went to there was something else, and then I also had Wellbutrin that I had taken at one point in time as well, and I thought that was exactly what I needed to do to get myself back in balance, because I felt like I couldn't sleep at night. I had anxiety. I felt like this elephant was sitting on my chest. I had a business I was running. I had kids. I had my husband, and I was completely like torn apart with everything and just could not do what I needed to do. And when I got on these antidepressants, I finally felt like I could separate things out, and didn't realize that there was a way to actually get that kind of separate and balanced. And then later, when I met my life coach and started doing my life coaching, I actually, halfway through my life coaching, got off of my antidepressants, and then told my life coach afterwards, and she said that's a very rare thing, that once you get on them, to be able to actually go off of them.
Right.
And understanding how that piece that I learned how to do with the medication, I don't need the medication to do.
No.
And it goes back to that eating right, the making sure that you're working out and keeping yourself healthy, what you put in your body, because it does affect your mind.
I feel like we should listen to ourselves and what we need. Our bodies will tell us.
Here's the problem is that we go to the doctor and we say we have these feelings, and they send you home with a script.
And that's what
They
happened
don't
to me.
tell you. They don't tell you. They don't look at you and say, what are you eating? Are you getting enough sleep? Let's check your blood and see what you're deficient in. They don't do that. And so that's step one, is taking your health into your own hands, and not, if you go to the doctor and they put you on antidepressants, you might need them. I'm not saying you don't, but you should go home and you should try other things. Start taking antidepressants if you want to, but fix your diet and fix this, and look into supplements and look into CBD and look into this.
Every disease is rooted in diet.
Everything's in your gut. Everything. Like I'm such a huge advocate.
Oh,
This is connected.
Yes.
Listen,
Totally.
I have a book down the road I want to recommend, and it's awesome. And I read this during the time my mother was battling her cancer, and then after, it's a big book, but even I just downloaded it on my Kindle.
Okay.
And I could not stop reading it, but I'll share that later on down the road.
Well, yeah, and I think this is a topic we'll get a little bit more into, because there's so much that we could talk about.
Health is so important.
Health is so important, and everything truly starts in your gut. And we're over prescribing, we're over medicating. People don't know any better. I mean, that's even my quick story with antidepressants. I had just had my second baby, and as we've mentioned in almost every episode, I was in a really bad marriage, and I went to the doctor after I had her, and I was diagnosed with postpartum. And I was put on, I think it was like Zoloft or something. And I took it for a couple months, and I went back, and I'm like, no, it's not helping. And they put me on something else, and nothing was helping. And then I finally realized I don't have postpartum. I have I hate my husband, I need to leave syndrome. And so, I'm serious. And it was, I realized it. And I got off of the medicine and stopped trying to fix something that I thought was broken in me, and realized what was actually broken in my life, and I left. And it was, but the doctor didn't go through anything I could fix. Yeah, we're getting to the point. We gotta wrap it. We've already gone over our time limit, but so we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But
you want to share
I want to share the suicide prevention line.
Yes,
and I already forgot what it was. So the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 800-273-TALK. So 800-273-8255. And it's a network of 161 crisis centers, and it's 24/7 toll-free support, anytime. And it's not going and talking to your sister or your friend that's gonna maybe judge you or have an opinion. It's a stranger, it's random, it's someone that's just there to listen. So please, utilize that, because it's there.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
All right.
I'm glad I got through this.
I know.
All right. Well, we love you, and we will see you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Bye for now.
Bye.